Good day, YouTube. It is the 9th of November 2024, and this is my dairy barn. Built 1947. This all used to be a dairy farm. What we have left for land is 0.37 acres right here in town, within walking distance of my house. So I keep a lot of stuff here, and I have set aside about 600 square feet of the barn. It's 50 by 50 overall, and then I have an upstairs that's mostly usable. And I have my own kitchen, and as a prepper, I have a couple of different stoves, one being a wood burning cook stove, the other running on propane. So if everything hits the fan, I'm pretty well set. Let's take you inside. I'll apologize for the mess. Always got too much stuff going on, and I collect things. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Too much stuff. But that's for another day. So this is my kitchen space, and today's going to be a little bit about sourdough and what it takes to start in the sourdough world. I see a lot of questions online about different things, and I'm going to try and do one video quickly and answer all of those questions. First off, what kind of flour, where do you get it, and how do you store it? Here we go. This I got at our local grocery store. And it is a 5-gallon bucket with a snap-on lid with a spin-off center, and it seals very nicely. Okay, the flour, again, this is I got this at Winco. Okay, I get my flour at Winco. This is unbleached all-purpose flour, and I picked up 2 more bags because we're getting into winter holidays baking such, so I want quite a bit on hand. These are 25-pound bags, so 75 pounds there, and they were $10.77 per bag, and that's a bargain. I've been to every store in our town and other towns looking for a better buy on flour, and it can't be beat. So, and will that 25 pounds fit in this? Yes, it will. Will it fit in this because I already have some flour in there? Well, let me dump it in there and I'll let you know. All right, bag is empty. I keep all my paper and burn it in my stove to get my fire started in the morning whenever I get out here. Again, my little barn is within walking distance of the house, although I don't walk there all the time. But as you can see, I put 25 pounds in there, and there was a few pounds still in there, and plenty of room to put the lid back on. Okay, so there we go. So let's talk about sourdough starter. I've done sourdough a couple different times in my life. The first time not so successfully, so I studied it a little more and then started in again. Gosh, has it been a couple years? I believe it's been a couple years. And what I did was went online, eBay or Amazon, I honestly can't remember, and bought what was billed to be a 210-year-old sourdough starter that's been dehydrated. And there was complete instructions with it to bring it back from dehydrated state to active state. I think it took 5 or 6 days. I actually did a video on it. You could probably search my channel and find that video. And I have successfully reconstituted, whatever the right word is, my sourdough starter, and this is what I've been using. And then along the way, I split it into 2. So in case something bad happens to one, I have the second one. Of course, you could split that off into 4, keep them in 2 locations, and so forth. So when I first got started, I weighed all of my jars with the lids and such, 440 grams, 460 grams. That's what the jars weigh. That's the tare, okay? So if you weighed this and it weighed 880 grams, you'd have 440 grams of starter and 440 grams of tare, or the weight of the vessel. That is a pretty good way to start when you're learning how much to feed your starter, okay? I don't do that method anymore, and we're going to just feed the starter right now. So if you're keeping your starter out in room temperature, and I showed you my barn so that you get an understanding that I don't live here at all, but I don't live here in a heated space. So it is unheated most of the time. If I'm working or cooking and it's cold outside, like today was probably 40 some degrees this morning, then I do build a fire. But this is a 2,500 square foot building with an upstairs and essentially no insulation. So other than heating the area around the stove, it's not good. I really have to run this wood stove day and night to get any kind of temperature improvement in the building. But as you can see, there's just no insulation on it. If you look closely, you can see outside. That's just the way it is. This wall is, but the other walls are not. So, but it's very nice in here in my little kitchen. But as soon as fire goes out, it's cold in here. So keeping sourdough starter at room temperature is different in my house than your house, kind of what I'm saying. So if you keep your starter at room temperature, then you'll need to feed it every day. If you stick it in the fridge, then you could feed it once a week, maybe even 2 weeks. And typically I stretch mine to a week and a half or 2 weeks. But to feed it, I took this out yesterday at room temperature, my room temperature, different from yours, remember? Okay, so I'm going to feed it today. And I'm considering baking bread in the next couple of days, so I may leave one of them out, put one of them back in the fridge. That's why I have two. It gives me options. Okay, so how are we going to feed this? Well, if you're getting started, you may want to do one of the methods that's described on the internet by weight. You will weigh your starter, and then you will apply, maybe 100% flour and 100% water by weight to your starter, or maybe 50-50. All of it is probably going to work. And again, if you ask 10 people how to feed their starter, you're going to get 10 different answers. I'm going to give you one, somebody else is going to give you one, somebody else is going to give you another one. But they'll probably all work fine. But remember, everybody's situation is different. Your house at a different temperature, you're at a different elevation, you're at different humidity, blah, 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 blah. It's always going to be different. And everybody's methods are probably perfect for their starter in their world. This is what works for me, and you are more than welcome to try it out on your own. Let me put you in the stand, and I'm going to show you how I discard and feed it. Why do I discard? I discard because right now my level in this jar is to here. If I were to feed it, it would be to here, and within 2 or 3 hours it's going to blow the lid off. Okay, and I don't want to keep gallons of starter. I want to discard. So because I baked using all my discard, I have now an empty and clean discard jar, because I make dog treats for my dogs. We have 3 dogs, and they love their sourdough. I make a pumpkin sourdough treat for the dogs. That's how I use up my starter. I think I have a video on that. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Can't remember, honestly. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off, we're going to do some discarding. Then we're going to feed both starters. I'm going to put one back in the fridge. It can be in there for a week or 2. I'm going to leave one out in case I want to bake with it this week. So sourdough is not something you can decide in the morning that you want to bake bread today. You kind of got to plan it a little better than that, especially if you're keeping it in the fridge, especially if you're in cold climate where if you take it out, it's going to take it a minute to warm up. Again, everybody's going to have their own methods. I'm going to show you mine. All right, you are in the stand. So, again, took these out of the fridge yesterday and just set them on the counter. Easy boy. And for whatever reason, I use a butter knife to stir this up. I don't know why. It works good, I guess. Just kind of scraping the sides, getting it all stirred up. You're kind of pushing the air out of it, cleaning the sides of your jar up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to grab a bottle of water. I use bottled water here. And we're going to do some discard. And I'm going to discard about half of that. So I'm coming down to about here-ish. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to feed it. And you can measure all you like. This is a 1/3 cup. It fits better when you're dumping it in there. So kind of 2 heaping 1/3 cups. So that's probably pretty close to a cup, just under a cup. There. And that's good enough. So my discard, I'm going to put it in the fridge. And if you are anticipating baking a ton, like around the holidays or something, and this is the container situation you have, I have in the past fed my discard because it's perfectly good. It's an active starter. I could feed that and then I'd have all of this starter to use in my recipes, whatever I'm doing. So a little water. Again, if you're just getting started, you might want to measure this on a scale. I have a pretty good feel for what I'm doing here. And what I'm doing here is not going to exceed the volume of my jar. I'm going for a thick milkshake, or almost like a Wendy's Frosty kind of consistency. And you can do it thinner than that too. This is not an exact science. This is get to know what your starter wants. Experiment a little bit. Split it into 2, split it into 3. Really get creative with it. I'm scraping the sides off a little bit. It's a little thick. Water supplies have a lot of chlorine and stuff in them. It may not be good for your starter. Before I knew better, years ago when I was trying to make this, I was using bleached flour. I didn't know the difference. Unbleached flour for maintaining your starter. When you get to making your bread, I don't think it's that critical what kind of flour you're using. But just for maintaining your starter. Okay. Unbleached. Okay. Put this in the sink. So I have this rubber band around my jar, and that's for me to set at the level it is after I feed it. It's like a gauge. It's like a gas gauge. Okay. You might want to leave this on kind of loose so it kind of gets to breathe. Something like that. I'm going to put this one back in the fridge. Like so. Alright. Now, I'll show you one other thing. Here's the issue I have in my unheated space. Just why I took the time to show you my unheated space. This is a little different than some places, but you know, if you have an old farmhouse and stuff and you get up in the morning and your kitchen's cold like mine is, you might have similar issues. So in the winter time, I'm going to have a heck of a time, because I don't heat the space, getting my starters ready to use. And once I'm making my bread dough, creating a space warm enough for the bread to rise before we can bake it. So I created, and I have a video on it, find it on my channel, this box. See that thing? It's actually winched up there because it's huge and it takes up a lot of room. But that is my proofing box. It was a carpenter's toolbox. It's a real antique. I hated drilling holes in it and stuff, but I have repurposed this toolbox into a proofing box, and I used 4 40-watt appliance light bulbs inside with an electronic controller to maintain temperature. So I could maintain 75 degrees in my proofing box easily, and that will allow my starter to be very, very active in the wintertime in my unheated space. And then once I've made my bread dough and I want it to rise, I kick the temperature up to like 85 degrees in there and put my bread dough in that box, and I can raise bread really, really easily in there. Again, my box takes up quite a bit of space because it's a big box, but this is how I work in my unheated space. And this is the second one of these boxes I built in my time, but this one is sizable enough that I can put a lot of bread or rolls or cinnamon rolls or whatever, and it's just about time for me to lower the box and find a spot to set it up here and start baking, because I do love to bake. I love sourdough, and this is how I accomplish it. It was very frustrating to make sourdough bread in my unheated kitchen without my proofing box. So guys, I've showed you, I think, everything. I'm gonna let this rise. It's it's probably about 10:30 or so in the morning. We'll come back in a few hours. I've set my rubber band, my fuel gauge, if you will, and we'll come back and I'll show you how much this has risen, in say 3 or 4 hours, and kind of go from there. Okay, I'm gonna put these in the fridge. Once your discard jar's getting kind of full, you need to start looking through recipes and see what you're gonna make from your sourdough discard, making pancakes in the morning or rolls or biscuits or something, because even though we call it discard, you hate to throw that away. It's time to use it for something. We've got our 5-gallon flour bucket all full of flour, and I pretty much leave it here. And then I've got 50 pounds of unbleached flour in reserve for winter baking. My sister and I will be making lefse soon. We may come up with some other things to make this winter. And yeah, I'm going to make me some sourdough dinner rolls here in the next day or so. So guys, we'll check back with you in a little bit. Here we go. It's been 5 hours, almost 5 hours, and my starters actually came way up there and is headed back down. When I pulled the plastic off, it was actually, drew a vacuum in there, and it's headed back down. So it's about right there right now. So if I was baking with this, I would needed to have probably started using it over an hour ago, hour and a half ago probably. Mine usually will come full active in about 5 hours, but because I've had a fire going all day, it's really warm in this area, it reacted probably faster than that. Again, I'm not baking today, but we might do something tomorrow. Not sure. Anyway, I'll put the lid back on it and feed it again tomorrow, and we'll do that. So that's my sourdough story. That's how I do it. Again, if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers, but they're 10 different environments. So what I suggest is experiment with what you're doing. Have a couple, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, and do some different things with each of them, keeping track of what you're doing, and find out what works best for you, your starter in your environment, and go from there. So it's been kind of fun showing how I do things, and happy sourdough baking to you all. And it's fall and winter time coming, and this is where I really enjoy baking and so forth. I'm again, stocking up, kind of getting ready. I don't sell anything, but I have, because we have 2 properties, we have 2 sets of neighbors, and I share a lot. So when I make dinner rolls, I make a lot of dinner rolls. You might as well. You're getting everything dirty, and you're doing the effort. Why not make a bunch, share with friends, family, whatever. Holiday time, don't run out of dinner rolls. We don't around here. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Please give it a thumbs up on the way out. Comment on the videos. I check comments and answer every single one of them the very next morning, if not sooner. And we'll see you in the comments in the morning. Catch you on the next video.